Hi everyone, James again at Innotech Tech Talk, and getting on to the next part of my custom gaming PC build. And if you haven't tuned in up till now, just kind of give you a quick rundown of what I've done so far. So far I have unboxed the case that I'm using, and that is the Cooler Master half XB, and they call it a LAN box, and with good reason. It looks like it'd be a fairly easy case to carry around to LAN parties. It's a cube. It's cube in shape, and it has some side handles on it. It's fairly lightweight, but the construction is definitely high quality. So you know, it's an 18-pound case, you know, plus whatever the rest of your parts add to it. I really like the design of it. It has two levels. The bottom level is used for your power supply and cable management, whereas the top level is used for all of your components, your motherboard, your processor, your RAM, your video card, and so on and so forth. So so far what I've done is I've unboxed the case. Like I said, I took all the panels off of it so I can get access to everything. I installed a Corsair closed loop liquid cool system. It's the H100i, and that's the updated version of the H100. And I installed 4 fans on that. It comes with 2, and I got 4 aftermarket Cougar fans for it. And I'm doing a push-pull system. So it's in the way that the radiator sits, and you can see this on my previous videos if you haven't watched them already, is it's on the front of the case. And I have 2 fans on the front that are pulling air in, or pushing air in, and I have 2 fans on the back side of the radiator that are pulling that air. So push-pull. Should get a lot better cooling that way. And the other thing that I did was I took the thermal compound that came installed on the H100i. I wiped it off because, like I said, I don't know what kind of thermal compound they use. For all I know, it could be some kind of a budget thermal paste, and I wanted something a little bit higher end. I normally use Arctic Silver. I've had really good results with that, but it slipped my mind when I was ordering all the parts off of Newegg. So I had to make a quick trip to Best Buy. And I wanted to mention this because I thought it was worth mentioning. Best Buy is now matching prices on your favorite websites like Amazon, and I think they'll even match, they might even match Newegg. I didn't ask them, but I did my price checks on Amazon for the thermal compound because I have a little app on my smartphone that I can scan the tag on the product, the little barcode tag, and it'll tell me what the price is on Amazon for it. So I didn't even realize that Best Buy was doing this, but one of their associates that works in the computer department walked up and he's like, can I help you out, sir? And I was like, I'm just, checking the prices on Amazon for this. And he's like, well, do you want me to do it? And I'm like, sure, go ahead. So I went over to the register and he scanned it. They were selling this thermal compound. It's the Antec Formula 7. It's the Nano Diamond thermal compound. And they were selling it for $20 at Best Buy, and it just so happened to be only $10 on Amazon. So I saved myself $10 right there. And then the other thing that I purchased is a wireless adapter, a USB wireless adapter, because my wireless router is in the other room. It's in the living room, and I don't want to reposition it. Because it's kind of in the middle of my house, so I get good coverage all over my house. And I didn't want to run a cable all the way, drilling a hole in my floor and everything, and running a cable all the way back here to my office. So I bought this Netgear wireless N600 dual band USB adapter. So I can plug this into my desktop and have wireless networking back here in my office. So pretty cool product. I'll talk about that in another video, but yeah. So they also did a price check on this, and I saved $10 on this. So I ended up saving $20, and you can't beat that. I think that's really good. The Best Buy is now noticing that people want these cheaper prices from shopping online, and they're willing to price check. So now they don't really, I don't think they're really advertising it anywhere in their store, but you know, if you need to make a quick run to Best Buy, say you forget to buy something off a Newegg or something like that, you know, go in there and say, hey, can you price check this on Amazon for me? And then they'll do that, and they'll give you the cheaper price. So big props to Best Buy for that. But anyways, I'll throw this aside for right now, along with the thermal compound, and we'll get to the next part of the build, and that's to install the power supply. So in the past, for pretty much all my past builds, I've always gone with Corsair power supplies, or Corsair, however you want to pronounce it, because they're just really good quality power supplies. I've always had good luck with them. However, for this build, I ran across this EVGA Supernova, and it's the NEX750G power supply, and it is fully modular. I really like fully modular. It just makes the build so much cleaner and easier. You're not trying to tuck cables out of the way. And it's a really nice looking power supply. Let me open it up for you. There we go. Set the knife aside here. Alright. So when you're picking out a power supply, you need to keep in mind, you know, what wattage you need to cover all of the components in your system. So if you're running like, you know, a 3-way SLI with some, you know, pretty high-powered video cards, you might have to jump up to something over 1,000 watts. I might eventually run an SLI, just a 2-way SLI, with the video card that I'm going to be using, and I'll talk about that later. But for right now, I'm just going to use one, because I'm on a budget. You know, I got a family, and I can't afford to buy the biggest and best and most of everything. So I had to pick my parts wisely and try to get the most performance out of my dollar. So, and I think that will probably be the case for most people. So that being said, I did get a really decent price on this power supply. I can't remember what it was exactly, but you can go on their website and check it out. It really wouldn't be worth me telling you what the price is now, because prices on computer components change almost daily. So I just pulled out the cables, and here, let me zoom in here. I got this little remote control that I'm using to zoom in, but really nice. I mean, they braided them. They've used where it's not braided, like where the braiding ends, they've done like a shrink tube, where you just hold like a heat gun up to it and it shrinks down to the end, or on the end of your braided sleeves, and it keeps it from fraying out or anything like that. But you know, these are really nice. One thing I really liked that they did was the cables, the power cables for your video cards, they're red, and the rest of the cables are black, and that's going to look really cool in my case, because the motherboard that I use is also a red and black color, so it's going to look really cool when I'm all done. But yeah, they did a really nice job on these cables. Like I said, I really like it. I really like the braided video card, or sorry, not the braided, not even video cards. I really like the modular power supplies, because you don't have to use any cords that you don't need. Let me zoom out here. Sorry about that. They do include a little book here, so you can, you know, kind of read about each of the modular connections and so on and so forth. I don't really need it, because I've done so many freaking builds that I know this stuff already. So, take this out of the way. There we go. So they've kind of gone the same route that Corsair does, and they've included a little, I always find this funny, a little sleeve or carrying sleeve that you can put over it. I don't know why I'd ever need to do that, but man, they did a nice job on it. I mean, it's all form fitted to the the size of the power supply, whereas Corsair's, it's kind of like a bag with a pull string on top. So this one's Velcroed on. It's really nice touch, nice finishing touch. It's not like I'm going to be pulling out my power supply and traveling around with it, but if I did have to, there's a nice metal handlebar attached to it. So so yeah, but I mean, so this power supply is 180 millimeters in length, and that's important because that's the extent of what I can use in the case. So when you're buying a power supply, the other thing you need to think about aside from power usage is, will it fit in your case? If you're using a smaller form factor case, like say you're doing a micro ATX build or a mini ITX, you might not be able to fit in a bigger power supply like this. And some of the cases for those smaller builds even come with their own power supplies built in. But for the most part, if you're buying all of your stuff on Newegg, all that information will be available in the details tab of the product. So you'll be able to see, okay, yeah, my case can use up to 180 millimeters, that's 7.1 inches, and you can go look on the EVGA power supply, and it's of course 180 millimeters, 7.1 inches. So there we go. I'm good to go. It might be a little bit tight, but I'm at least, you know, I'm not going past that mark. So should work out just fine. And for right now, I'm going to put these cables away in the box because I'm not ready to install them yet. So I'm just going to put the power supply into the case and then set it aside. So actually, it doesn't look like they supply. Oh, okay. So yes, they did supply the screws. Yeah, so they've supplied the little screws to screw it into the case, and they've also given like this little rubber pad with little oval shaped cutouts that you can put on the bottom side of the power supply. And I think what they're supposed to act like is like little shock absorbers to keep it from vibrating inside the case when the fan is spinning. So so I might do that. I'll have to look and see. I might not need to, but if I do, I'll put those on there. Let me set this box aside for now. Can I move this aside? Oops. Break that table. Not be good. All right. So if you watched one of the earlier videos I did where I unboxed the case, you would have seen that there's this, try to lift up here, on the back side here, there's this protruding part of the case, which it's kind of like it's a sleeve that fits over the back side of the power supply. And what that does is it allows you to use a longer power supply without increasing the depth of your case. So part of your power supply is kind of sticking out. It's not flush with the backside of the case, and I don't mind that. I think that's actually a really good design. I would rather have it that way than to have an entire case pushed out that much further with space that I'm not even going to use. So it does give thumb screws to take this sleeve off, but they're in there kind of tight from factory, so I'm using my screwdriver to take them off for the first time. And I'll probably might actually be easier even to use a screwdriver to put them back in, but let's see. And just from looking at this right now, I'm not going to have to use those little cutouts, those little pads that are included with the power supply for the vibration, because the case already has those built into it. So that's really nice. They did that. Cooler Master really thought of just about everything when they put this case together, you can tell that they have a lot of experience designing cases. Okay, so let's see. Kind of show you here how this works. Okay, so here's the power supply, the back of the power supply, and here is that little sleeve that I took off the back side of the case, and it will slide right on the end here, like so. And then what I do is just install those little screws here, 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 and here, and it'll keep the sleeve attached to the power supply, and then I slide it in, and then I put in my thumb screws on these four, and it'll hold it in. So that's really cool. I like that design. I can't get over how well thought out this case is. So let me grab those and go ahead and screw them in here. And you know, I know this is you know, hopefully you're not taking this video and saying I gotta watch it, you know, everything that he does to try to copy that when I'm building my computer, because it's really going to be hard for you to see everything I'm doing. But I can tell you this, a lot of times, you know, if you're a first-time builder, you know, there's a lot of anxiety there. You don't want to mess up the stuff that you just paid a lot of money for, but it's, you know, I can tell you that it's not that easy to mess this stuff up. I mean, as long as you're not dropping it or something like that, you're probably not going to mess it up. So you know, make sure you're not getting a lot of static electricity where you're you know, going to create a big static shock on any of your components, especially your motherboard or any printed circuit board for that matter. And you should be okay. One good way to get rid of static electricity actually is to touch the power supply. So let me put these last 4 screws in here. Okay. One more to go. And you know, you don't have to wrench down on these things. Just make them nice and tight. You don't want to strip your screws out. You don't want to crimp any metal or anything like that. It's really not necessary to make things really over tightened because it's a computer, you know. Alright, so now I'm taking this and I'm just sliding it in the back side of the case. So, yeah. Like someone's trying to message me. Okay. There was a little bit of a clearance issue with on the fan grill on my power supply. It has a an EVGA logo on it, and actually I'm trying to decide whether or not I want to vent this out the bottom or inside the case. I think I might do that. I might do it from the bottom. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. So basically you're putting it in upside down in this case because the fan is pulling in air from the bottom of your case. There's a nice mesh grill there that allows for airflow, and then what it does is it pushes the air out the back of your power supply. So you're putting it in upside down, so you're not going to see the pretty. No, you wouldn't see it anyway with the motherboard. And there's a really cool looking fan grill on the power supply. It has the EVGA logo on it. You're not going to see that in this case. It's not really set up that way, not unless you're flipping your case upside down or, you know, taking your motherboard tray out. But that's okay. You don't really need to see that. So if you're going to use this case, don't go buy some fancy LED lit power supply because you're not going to be able to see it. buy yourself some nice LED lit fans instead, and you'll be able to see those quite nice. There is a if you don't want to use the 200 millimeter fan that you can install on the top panel of the case, you can actually buy a panel, a glass panel for the top of this case directly from Cooler Master, which basically it just gives you a nice plexiglass window that you can look down onto your components. So that's one thing to think about. I just prefer to have the extra airflow, so I'm just going to use what they sent with it and put the 200 millimeter fan in there. Alright, so get this last thumb screw in here. Given the spot where these thumb screws are for the power supply, it's really just easier to screw them in using your screwdriver, because there's not a lot of thumb space or space to use your fingers when it's sitting flush against the surface. Okay, so that's in there nice and tight. Not overly tight, but tight enough to keep it from going anywhere. Okay, so that gives me about, I would say, 2 inches of space between the back of the power supply and the back of the 3.5 inch drive cage. So there's more than enough space there for me to put my cables and manage them, so on and so forth. So if you're wondering, is 180 millimeter or 180 millimeter 7.1 inch length power supply capable of fitting in this case and still working alright? And the answer is yes, it is. You can definitely get away with 180 millimeter. You could probably even get away with something a little bit longer, as long as you're going with a fully modular power supply. I wouldn't go anything above maybe 190, and that's cutting it close. Try to stick to the 180 millimeter mark if possible. But yeah, there we go. So power supply is installed, and I think the next step will be to pull out the motherboard and start installing the CPU and all that stuff, and then installing the motherboard back into the computer, or into the case. So there we go. And again, I can't emphasize enough, there's definitely more than enough little cable grommet areas that you can use to zip tie down your cables for cable management, so don't worry about that. I know I've seen other videos where people said there's not a lot of cable management in this case, and I don't know exactly what they're talking about or what they're looking at. They must not be looking at the same case I am, because I see tons of areas that I can do cable management here. Probably more so than any other case I've ever seen. So there we go. I'll see you guys in the next video.